Hey friends, Mike Shaner here. February 9th, 2023. This is No Treason with Mike Shaner. I want to talk to you today about, there's a lot going on. The State of the Union was last night. I don't even care about that. That's so ridiculous. It's like WWE promo. So I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen. Angela McCardle of the Libertarian Party gave a great response. You can check that out on her YouTube channel. You can go to just Google Angela McCardle or LNC chair response to the State of the Union. But there's a lot going on. I'm going to do some more videos about TikTok coming up. And I'm just going to touch on this because that's not the premise of today's show, but it's important, and it actually kind of does tie in to a lot of the manipulation and gaslighting that's going on. So Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, whoever, the federal government themselves, they've been spying and collecting data on us for a long, long time. But they have a hard on for TikTok, and the reason is because TikTok doesn't. They do some, they do a lot, but they don't do near as bad a job or as much censoring of anti-government propaganda. I would say propaganda, anti-government messaging, as the others do. Like the others are in lockstep, and because TikTok's not, it's easy to make them the Chinese villain. So, and I see a lot of so-called conservatives and even libertarians. It's easily the same crowd that'll, support war, that sort of thing. I see them really gunning for the TikTok, and that's it's never good for government to get in and take choices away from people. This is a message for another show. I sort of wanted to. It's on my mind, so I'm bringing it up. What I really want to talk about today, though, is it's the same thing. It's just in a different venue. Kevin McCarthy proposed the fair tax, and I see a lot. I mean, a lot of Republicans defending it like it's something great, and it's not. It's not. There's simply no such thing as a fair tax. Taxation is theft, and there's simply no way to steal from people in a way that's fair to them. There is no morality in equitable extortion. It's taxation is extortion, and taxes are collected by the threat of violence. This is true if the gangster and his collection agents are known by the name of cartel, mafia, mobster, or government. They all collect the same way and promise the exact same protections and products and services in return. They won't hurt you if you comply. Therefore, when a politician pretends he's looking out for your best interest by changing the I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. When a politician pretends he's looking for your best interest by changing the collection scheme to something called a fair tax, that's when the alarm bells should be ringing. Just because Democrats are sleazy, it doesn't mean Republicans are saints. They both work for the same evil boss, and they both have the same evil goals. People shouldn't be fooled by the pro wrestling theatrics of good guy, bad guy politics that are meant to distract people and make them vehemently support that which they would otherwise abhor. The same people who are defending Kevin McCarthy's national sales tax proposal would be screaming from the rooftops, rightly, about the same evils if it were presented by Pelosi. But at least in that case, they'd be on the right side. You can't be on the right side of something just because of the team presenting it. It's right or it's wrong, and this is wrong. The the main buzzwords in support of the new fundraising scheme appear to be it's the lesser evil. Proponents claim that while they don't love the idea of a national sales tax, it is better and a more equitable way to pilfer. It's not. Any system that gives the federal government more revenue is not a better system. And make no mistake, the national sales tax, even if exactly as presented, would increase government revenue. If it raises federal revenue, which this grift does, it should be a non-starter. The federal government needs a diet. It doesn't need a larger buffet. It's also a Trojan horse. Stephen King, not Stephen King the author, Steve King the horror of a politician, said a long time ago, watch out, it's a Trojan horse. This was 10, 15 years ago. Now, if, and it's a huge if, they were to repeal the income tax like this proposal suggests, it'd only be temporary and only a matter of time before it's reinstated. The national sales tax, it won't pass this time, but what it's doing is conditioning members of the public who would normally hate the idea to not only accept it, but also defend it because a Republican presented it. It'll be far more digestible when it's reintroduced at a later date as a supplemental tax instead of a replacement one. If it were to pass, it will be used as a further catalyst to drive the country further into a cashless economy. With cash, we can still avoid the plunder by dealing on the black market. Governments like their loot, and it's much easier to count when it's collected electronically. Some people claim a sales tax is more. Some people claim a sales tax is more moral than the income tax because an income tax is a form of slavery, which it is, where the government takes the fruits of a man's labor against his will. The sales tax, they say, at least it's a consumption tax that you can avoid by consuming less. Never mind that you can avoid income tax by working less or on the black market. The national sales tax adds further layers of conscription and immorality to the pot. They conscript business owners and even employees like sales clerks into federal service by forcing them to become uncompensated tax collectors. It is true that many states and local governments already do this, but it's a practice we should be fighting, not expanding. In the end, all taxation is evil. The federal government has proven since its inception that it isn't to be trusted. The income tax, after all, was to be a modest 1%, imposed only on incomes above $3,000 or $90,000 in today's money, $89,938.48 to be exact. That didn't last long. Hear that again. When the income tax was first passed in 1913, it was to be 1% only on the top 1% of earners. Sadly, there are people who are listening to this that will trust the Republicans with their wives and daughters. They'll defend this scheme with all the naivety they can, with all the gumption they can muster, and no amount of logic or history will convince you that Republicans are just as bad as the donkeys. But consider this. The Republicans won't always be in power. Will the next Congress that's constructed more like this Congress, will they honor the promise of the next one? If the next Congress is as bad as the last Congress, will they honor the promises of this Congress? With the exception of their dedication to raising the debt limit and expanding the war machine, the answer is obvious. They never, ever, ever honor the promises. This plan's a Trojan horse. It'll give the federal government more revenue, and it'll give them more revenue in the short term right away, like right off the bat, just as it's proposed. And it'll eventually, if not immediately, be rejoined by an income tax. It conscripts merchants and clerks as federal tax collectors. It incentivizes the move to a digital currency that can be more easily collected and controlled. Who is this new tax fair to? Only the government. Taxation is theft. Taxation is extortion. There is no such thing as a fair tax.